got shotgun like pussy, I'll fucking bitch.
Fucking soy boy fish eating motherfucker.
That's the worst shotgun I've ever seen.
Armchair MMA. My editor recently told me that we shoot in 360. I don't know what that is. Apparently it's the quality of VHS. So shout out to Orange Reptar VHS. That's what we're rolling with over here at Armchair. I'm currently drinking some Dalmore 12. Got it packed up, ready to go with me. Big shout out to the guys at Talking Shop podcast, Bobby and Dylan. They're doing some pretty cool things over there. That was their 72nd episode, so they've been doing it for quite a while. Talking MMA for about 55 minutes or so. It was pretty good, pretty fun time. Love to do it again sometime. Jake with Armchair MMA, let's get into it. Is UFC Las Vegas 8, I believe. UFC big European dudes, essentially. Ion Cutelaba, Ankalaev are fighting in a rematch. Very controversial fight. Cutelaba pulled out some Leonardo DiCaprio and just started acting out there. Anderson Silva-esque, like with Chris Weidman before he got knocked out, but he did that like whole sway thing. He did get clipped up. I don't know if he was hurt or not, but as soon as they stopped the fight, it was an early stoppage no matter what. As soon as they stopped the fight, immediately protested it. Didn't seem to be out at all. Don't play games in the octagon, man. Like Chris Weidman put in, acting like, oh man, I had my hand down, my head hurts, and then he gets TKO'd off Gegard Mousasi when he threw the knee up, and it turned out it was a legal strike. I expect it to be Ankalaev. I think he's more controlled in his aggression. They're both incredibly explosive power. Cutelaba on top of you raining down elbows is not a fun place to be at. Just ask Cleo Roundtree. But Ankalaev, he's the dude that did the front kick and then crosses. The dude's like falling down. It's super nice highlight reel. But he just explodes body kicks. He keeps that kind of distance, right in his kicking range is where he kind of dictates the fight, has him up against the cage. I'm thinking it's probably going to be a second round TKO, potentially a submission even. I think Cutelaba has an affinity for gassing out after the first round. So let's get into the co-main event. Robbie Lawler versus Neil Magny. I'm hoping we see a vintage Robbie Lawler out there. I mean, this guy's one of the best welterweights ever. I mean, even Strikeforce fighting as a middleweight, still just killer performances. I mean, he killed Matt Lindland, and Melvin Manhoff was such an exciting fight. I mean, that's got to be one of the best comeback wins ever. You know what I mean? And those guys are big monsters. But he is one of the best middleweight champs ever, in my opinion. The body of work he did, ripping his mouth apart. But fighting Rory McDonald, the battle he had with Carlos Condit, I mean, both Rory McDonald's fights were pretty good. The fight with Carlos Condit, Johnny Hendricks fights, it just showed his true tough and gritness. Almost like Justin Gaethje's like a Robbie 2.0 almost. Especially nowadays, he's kind of switching who he is. But that's who I always kind of felt were very similar fighters, like a World Series of Fighting, Justin Gaethje, and like the Strikeforce Robbie Lawler, like the Robbie Lawler that just came back to UFC in a big way. But while we were talking about explosive power, what I was going to say is I do think Robbie's going to win in decision. He kind of takes the second round off, and Neil Magny can kind of capitalize on things. He's a big, long guy. He's very technical everywhere. But Robbie Lawler starts out strong, or at least, the Robbie Lawler we love to see will start out strong first round, take off the second round, start out strong, and finish strong in the end of the third round. And I think if he sticks to that formula, this is going to be a good litmus test to see where he's at still. I mean, if he puts, Neil Magny away in the first round or something, I mean, maybe he does deserve someone tougher. But I think this is kind of, Neil Magny's like who you think of when you think like floating around 15. You know, he's good for like an old fighter, a young fighter that's surging, a guy trying to switch weight classes that is just, you know, kind of petering out like at the top level of that. Like say, you know, I don't know, Dustin Poirier wanted to come up to welterweight. You know, that Neil Magny might be a good test for him. But now let's get into the main event. Now we were saying about explosive power. I think Rackem is going to start Lionheart. I think that Glover Teixeira showed that Lionheart just does not have very good head movement, especially when he's pushed up against the cage, and that's what Rackem does. Like he just has explosive power, but he doesn't have the best accuracy. It's almost like when a fighter hurts another fighter, and they're just like smelling the blood and just kind of rush up and unload. That's kind of what he does, but it comes at weird angles. I think just to say he's just throwing is a bit of an understatement, or a bit of an, you know, a bit of a reach, I guess you'd say. I think Lionheart has an affinity to, or you know, he like shells up almost like it's kickboxing, and I think a lot of those looping punches come in. You get him against the cage, he'll just kind of shell up, duck his head, and kind of run out to the right side, and I think he's going to get smacked hard for it, and he's going to pay the price if that's the type of, you know, if he's not learning how to move around. On the same token, I think Lionheart has a nice nice leg kick. Volkan Ozdemir was kicking the shit out of Racket's leg, and that's really how he won that fight. You know, he's got a good ground game, especially, you know, Rackett likes to throw this big flying knee like right at their rib cage kind of, and say he gets underhooks right off that, takes him down in his top game. I mean, I can't remember seeing Rackett really off his back, so I'd be interested to see where he's at. But he does have like good top position, and he just seems more defensively sound than Lionheart does. He has really good sway out of the way, duck down, and good footwork when people are throwing bombs at him. I think it would do Lionheart some good for the leg kicks, like I said, and lots of those stabbing teeps to the bodies, his 1-2s. But he cannot get pushed up against the cage. This is where he's going to lose the fight. And I think, unfortunately, he's going to. So I'd say first, second round, KO. You know, I don't think it's going to be a TKO. I think he's going to put him out if he does. All right, guys. Well, if you like this video, hit like and subscribe. Like I said, shout out to the boys at the Talking Shop. You guys have a good night and enjoy the fights.